You're just focused on the bad things in the day that happen,
Mm-hmm.
or you're focusing on the good things in the day that happen, because the world doesn't revolve around me. And my kids, I keep a reminder the day that my daughter was born, our eldest. When she came out of the womb and I was in the room, I did not hear her make a sound. And I was looking at her. The doctor's taking her out. I'm like, yo, whoa, 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 whoa. And it was at that moment I realized that I would never see my children crying and making noise as a negative thing, because that just lets me know you're alive.
Hello, welcome back to Family Man Entrepreneurs. I am Mark Tudor. I am here today with Jarrad Walker. Now, he's such an inspiring person. You are going to absolutely love him. I first saw him in a shared masterclass about 6 months ago, and I've been a fan of him ever since. He is an amazing speaker. He will lift up your day, so stay tuned. Today we're going to be talking about intentionality. We're going to be talking about how to create harmony in your life, how to be an amazing parent, how to live life to the fullest. And he has some very, very good ways to help you. Now, welcome, Jarrad. How are you doing today?
Hey, man, I'm always outstanding and improving, even when I don't feel like it. And thank you for the opportunity, man, to be here and have this good old conversation with you, Mark, because the
Yeah.
pleasure is all mine, man. You one of the dopest fathers I done actually met in the last few years, because the intentionality piece is just like what? You hear it from the actual way that you communicate and speak.
Mhm.
It's not forced, it's not fraudulent, it's not fake. So the pleasure is all mine. Trust me.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. Same goes to you. I'm mesmerized just listening to you. So I wanted to ask you. You are so big on intentionality as a way to help people take their life to the next level. Where did it happen in your life? Did anything specific happen in your life that made you focus on this?
Yeah, growing up, it's like this. They say your present perceived values will be created based on your past perceived voids. So the things that I did not have produced an actual desire present day that I want to have, and I'm actually committed to having it because I deserve it. And what do I deserve? Well, I deserve to be an intentional father because my children do not deserve to go through what I experienced growing up. I didn't have that. I had two fathers. I had my biological and my stepfather. Stepfather came into my life when I was 2, and he became my father, my dad, when I was 3. And my biological, my mom and dad, they were married. And later on, my mother got pregnant with me, and it wasn't a happy family.
Mhm.
So it's like the foundation of it all was, okay, my parents loved one another. However, something dysfunctional took place. So by the time I entered into the world, it was a short amount of time before I was as if I was fatherless. So whenever I was raised by another man, I was still raised in a situation where it's kind of like, because he didn't have his dad growing up, so he didn't know. And then my dad, biological, he didn't have his dad growing up, so he didn't know. So here I am having to figure it out, and that's not something I want my children to experience. So that's a big major piece of that actual intention.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that must be quite some experience to go through. And did you remember the moment where you made that decision to really go like, okay, well, I'm going to not just live intentionally, I'm going to help people live intentionally.
Ah, yeah, man. I remember laying in the bed in 2020, and it's January, by the way. COVID hasn't even hit yet, at least not in my parts of the woods. So I'm in the bed with a back injury, physically in a lot of pain. However, from the other room, I'm hearing my wife. We homeschool. So I'm hearing her complain to the kids about things that she had been already trying to complain, tell me about. Like, I need help. I need help. I need help. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. And then when I was put in a position where I had to sit and listen, it's like, oh my goodness, this is what she's been trying to tell me. So at that moment, I felt like, man, you've been failing your family. You have literally been letting them down. You've been dropping the ball. And I didn't like that. So I made up my mind that I wasn't going to continue to perpetuate that. So that same year, by the end of the year, because I was out of commission from January to October physically. So by the end of the year, I had already decided and made my mind up that I'm about to help other people avoid this. And this was in December. So I said, nah, this can't continue to go on. So by the time 2021 hit, that's when I really started hitting the ground running when it came to intentionality. Being the if is what I call it.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a situation where that would change everything in life. Thank you for sharing that. How can intentionality help people? I mean, it is something that people always talk about, like goals and looking at your values and investigating that. But it's something that does get repeated a lot, but maybe without going too deep into it. Like, how can it actually help you?
Well, Mark, I got this thing. It's a framework that I use. It's called VIBE. VIBE stands for values, intentions, beliefs, and expectations. If your vibe is out of alignment, then you are literally functioning in chaos. So, what happens is you have the intentionality part. Most people do not know that an intention is synonymous with purpose, as well as will, desire, and idea. An idea, by definition, is the result of thinking. Thinking is calculating and imagining. So you can say that your actual ideas are the fruit of your imagination. Therefore, if your ideas are the fruit of your imagination, fruit stands for full results understood in time. Therefore, your intentions are the fruit of your imagination. If you're unaware of the reason you have specific ideas or intentions, and that might be because they don't belong to you, they belong to someone else. Because if your intentions are not the fruit of your imagination, they're the byproduct of someone else's. If you're not intentional, that means you are unaware. And if you're unaware, you're moving in accordance to the beat of somebody else's drum as they play you like a drum or a fiddle. And you don't want that. So intentionality can actually help you because it allows you to operate within your identity, not someone else's.
100%. So is that some of the common problems you see with people that lack intentionality? They just do what everyone else does.
It's like the Matrix. They're just going with the flow, not realizing that once you unplug, the
Hmm.
world is not what you think it is, and you have options. So when I talk to people and I hear them, I'm like, okay, well, I see a person is not aware. Well, there's this thing I've heard Myron Golden say. He says that disruption follows intention. That means you get intentional about something, you best believe it's a bunch of disruption going to come with it. Chaos is going to follow creation. So you're trying to create something, being intentional. Here comes the chaos. Here comes the disruption. However, before you get to that part, awareness precedes intention. You can't be intentional about something you're unaware of. It's not possible. Therefore, awareness is the first step to intentionality. And when you are unaware that you're not being intentional, then how is it that you're going to be the person that you say you're committed to becoming?
Hmm.
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I love that. So, what are the once somebody gets that awareness and wants to become more intentional with their family, with their life, just in general, maybe they want to create like the body they want, or they want to create the life they want in terms of the job they have with the kids, and want to create the relationship with the kids they want and with their partners. How do you start? Like for a lot of people, for a lot of people, we saw that like in 2020, 2021, when they became aware of they wanted change in their life. That I think people were talking about like the big resignation in 2020, 2021, where people decided, actually, I'm at home now. I'm with my kids. I'm quite happy. Like all this, they needed some space from the typical like the rat race,
Mm.
the office work, and just to get their mind out of it and say, okay, well, maybe this is not what I want. Okay, but on the other side is something very, very scary. Like, what do I want? How do I even know what I want? How do I know what I want? Like I just said, right? How do I know what I want? It's not my parents. And even if I do know what I want, how can I keep my parents off my back that want me to do something else, for example? So, how do what can you say to people that have this initial fear? Like they now have the awareness, but how can they overcome that initial fear of moving into intention and designing and living that intentional life?
That's a great question. So we've probably heard it before. They say fear stands for false evidence appearing real, or false expectations appearing real. Well, I say fear stands for flooded emotions appearing rational. You think what you're thinking is rational, but really it's irrational, and it's not even following logic and truth. Therefore, you have to become the person who is aware that, hey, it's not easy, it's difficult, it's complicated, I've never done this before, I don't know what to do. Acknowledge the ignorance. Hang your hat on ignorance, and I promise you it'll save you a lot of headache when you know that you don't know something. But what do you do, Mark, whenever you know you don't know something? You ask questions. You actually know that you need help. That's what you would do as a kid. If you needed some type of help, you ask. You have to, if you're in the classroom, you would raise your hand, ask, because why? You know that you don't know. So you would start with not only the awareness of what you want, but also the awareness of who you are. You are the person who is trying to figure something out, and you have to ask questions. Do not pursue the things that you do not know how to pursue without a map at the very least. And that map begins with not what you want. That's what most people mess up. You don't start with what you want. You start with being aware and intentional by setting your attention, intention, and meditation, your aim, on what you value highly and already have. You don't start with what you want that you don't have. You start with what you want that you do have. Because I promise you, if you compromise what you have to go ascertain and obtain something that you don't have, somewhere in your life, you're going to find a lack of harmony, and you're going to be wondering why. Well, it's because you forsook exactly what it was that you value highly, and you thought you needed something different. It's not the case.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, completely. Yeah, you do see people going completely the other way and completely abandoning what they have to chase the new and exciting life. And I agree for many ways, or in many ways, that you don't start what you want, because at least this is my opinion, because I think what you want can be a very limited version of what you can actually get. Like your imagination can be as big as it can be, but maybe reality can be even bigger. And sometimes your imagination is held back by beliefs, by ideas. And so, of course, you have all the power of imagination, but then it gets held back as well. So the reality can be even better. How can people that have established their values and want to take action on it, what's the best way to start forming a community around it as well? Because that's just my opinion, and hopefully you can talk a bit about that as well. Community and your environment is just so important. How can they start forming their community?
Once again, you start with what you have that you actually want, that you do value. Remember the values, intentions, beliefs, and expectations. Well, let's say you said, okay, they have their values. They already have those set in place. Great, because if we can't vibe together, we can't thrive together. So that's a good thing. But after that, then what? Well, if you are intentional about upholding and maintaining what you truly value, you're going to find people that do the same. Now, this is equivalent to what's referred to as an actual change model. So as you are going through the process of change, the transformation takes place after awareness. You come from out of darkness into light. Now you go from unaware to aware. After you become aware, now it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? You contemplate on exactly what it is that you need to do about this situation, because just because a person is aware of a problem doesn't mean they're ready to change it. It is not until you begin to pursue the actual journey that requires you to not only change it, but do something about what you don't want that is inevitably coming if you don't change. Well, there is no possible way that you can think, well, you know what? What are we going to eat tonight? We got to eat. And then you go to the store or you go to the whatever restaurant. You're not going to be the only person there, more than likely. While you are on the journey of being intentional, you find those who are intentional as well. It's not a matter of how do I find my community. It's how committed am I to being on this journey, because it is along the way that we walk along the yellow brick road that we start finding people who are going in the same direction as us, and we start building those relationships. It is not until you begin to commit to creation that you find
Mm-hmm.
yourself in connection with people who function according to the same communication. And at that point, here goes the community, one person at a time.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, once you take action, the right people will find you and you will find the right people there. Yeah, I love
Yep.
that. So you mentioned you love working with entrepreneurs that have families and trying to find harmony in those situations. What are some common pitfalls that you've seen in with people in those situations?
Their belief system. A belief is an idea we hold so significant that we perceive it to be true, even if it's not. Just because you believe something doesn't make it true. So I believe that the truth sets you free. Therefore, a lie sets you up. And if you falling for a lie, then you are in a pit and you need somebody to help you get up out of that. So their belief that they have time. That's why they're doing what they're doing, right? Because they think, oh, well, you know what? I want to leave a legacy for my family. I don't want my kids to have to work for anybody else. I don't want this. I don't want that. It's all of this stuff you don't want. But while at the same time, instead of building a legacy worth protecting, you're creating a legacy worth correcting. How many movies have we watched where the actual man becomes a billionaire and gets very rich, but his family is in shambles when he's there? He
Mhm.
finally obtains the thing that he was aiming at, only to find out he was aiming at the wrong thing the whole time. So why would a man aim to gain the whole world, but in the process lose everything that matters to him most, his family and his soul? It doesn't make sense. So I make them aware of the fact that, hey, you're actually perpetuating the problem just in a different facet. And they're like, what do you mean? You said you don't have time for this. Time is always the biggest issue, their belief about it. I don't have time. Well, how am I supposed to do this and that? It's like, you watch movies? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay. How long is the average movie that you watch? Man, if I'm watching a movie, I'm watching a movie with the kids. How long? That's about 90 minutes. Okay. Did you know that 90 minutes is enough time for you to be intentional 3 times out of a day? They're like, what? I say, yeah, man. Out of a whole 24 hours, that's 1,440 minutes. They say, what? I said, yeah, 168 hours is 10,080 minutes. They're like, why do you know this? Why don't you know this? Do you not know that there's a metric system that everybody is operating on? If you have a 9 to 5 and you clock in and clock out, they're literally tracing your time. When they make these movies, they're within a specific time duration for a reason. There's a framework behind it. There's a structure. There's an understanding. How is it that you don't understand that though? So they're like, man, I didn't never think about that. I say, yeah. So listen, 24-hour day is 1,440 minutes, but I promise you, you don't have to do the whole thing all day. So how can I be intentional about this whole 3 times out of a day? I got you. I tell them just 2% of a whole day is 29 minutes and 20 seconds. They say, what? I said, yeah, 29 minutes and 20 seconds. That's less than Elmo. I said, exactly. So if you can do that 3 times out of a day by watching a movie, then you can do it 1 time out of a day with your family. And it doesn't even have to require you watching anything. Y'all can just be intentional about the limited time you have together because you still got to work, man. I get it. But it don't take all day for you to be intentional. And it's that time perspective and shift that makes them realize like, wow, even if they don't have 2%, just 1%. That's 14
Mhm.
minutes and 40 seconds. One. And they say, man, I ain't realize it was that simple. I said, yeah, you did. You just didn't think about it the way that you could, because when emergencies pop up, all of a sudden you got time.
Oh yes, yeah, I love that. That's deep. That's perfect. That's something people need to hear. Because firstly, I agree. Watching a film together with your kids is not intentional time. It's not being present. You are there, spending time with the kids, but you're not there present with your kids. They're not looking at you. You're not looking at them. Usually, all the furniture in the room is aimed at the TV. That's a whole different discussion. But it's curious to think how much time and such a good exercise for people to do at home right now if they're listening to this, to make an inventory of the day and think of what is superfluous, like when am I scrolling, when am I spending time that really is this going to contribute to the life that I want. um, it's so important to be mindful of those of those hours because the hours go by very quickly. Pick up your phone, start scrolling. 2 hours later, hello, I'm back. And as you said, money is a renewable resource. Time is not. You have very, very limited amount of time, unfortunately. And especially when you have kids, is like they say in that family boardroom meeting book, 18 summers. You have 18 summers basically with the kids, even if they live with you, 18 summers before they start really doing their own thing. 18 summers, like that's nothing. Like it's so, if you count it like that, it's so, so little. So I love how you describe that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of
Um,
course, my pleasure.
and I wanted to know just going back to what some of the things you did with your family to make it more intentional.
Well, one is every Wednesday in my home for about 5 years has been family day.
Hmm.
Today is family day. It's family day.
Yeah.
Every Thursday is date night with my wife,
Hmm.
and every Friday is wife day. I let her, hey, listen, you do whatever. I'll deal with everything when it comes to everything. So you just get lost. She just goes to her room and reads a book. She doesn't go anywhere. But that's her thing. She's an introvert. Cool. That time with them though on Wednesdays is sacred. I don't compromise it. To the point where like you mentioned, you said when you're watching a movie, you're not being intentional. And I remember when that was a thought and belief at one point of my own until I repurposed it. Because look, you got Thanksgiving coming up. Why would I
Hmm.
wait on a tradition that everyone participated in order to be intentional about my own family tradition stuff? That doesn't
Hmm.
make sense. Why do I need to do something once or 4 times out of a year? No, I'm going to have something regularly in my home. Why? Because it's what I call a fact. If you don't know your facts about your family, then you're failing. Because a fact is a family anticipated ceremony and tradition. So even with the 18 summers, I'm familiar with it, right? And it's like, to a certain extent, I get it. But here's the thing, man. You don't have 18 summers. You also have 18 falls,
Hmm.
18 winters,
Yeah.
18 springs, alongside the seasons of life that may outlast every season that you have actually just listed off. So, what that means is if you do things intentionally, you don't just have what someone else says according to their system you have what you built because that's a legacy worth protecting.
Hmm.
So, what you actually have is access to do things in a non traditional, unconventional way. For example, when watching a movie, we call it mining. We mine the movies. So I'm at home. I push pause. Our kids are used to it. Like, okay, we stop. We ask questions. Hey, did you see that? What just
Hmm.
happened? Because you have to guide them through the movie, through the show. Like it's parental guidance for a reason.
Hmm.
So it's like if you're
Yeah, I like
not
that.
guiding them through the movie, then you're just allowing someone to infiltrate their minds and give
Hmm.
them these ideas that didn't come from you. So
Yeah.
it's like, let's walk through this. And as we go through that process of mining, we start pulling out the gold. So my son will say, that's it. Whenever he catches something that is wise. So it's like, oh, great. So they remember and retain the wisdom that we are seeking. We're not watching something blindly and unintentionally. We're intentionally watching, learning, discussing. It's not a waste of time because we were not spending the time, we were investing it together.
I love that. Making traditions with your family is so important. You recently had a little online event about making traditions with your family. What is something that people can do to start doing that for themselves, and why is it so important to start making your own traditions instead of not only just following the mainstream ones, but
Yeah.
actually making your own?
Oh, man, this is fun. Depending on how old the kids are, because one was a infant newborn whenever we started this, and the other two were still, oh my goodness, toddlers and toddler. But just ask them, hey, what do you love to do? One might say, I love eating cookies, ice cream, and then another might
Hmm.
say, I love Elmo, Miles Morales. My son's just like,
Hmm.
whatever it is that they enjoy and love. For me, I'm married to my wife, so I include her on it as well. Like, hey, what do you like to do? And then you literally just create something around that, and you try different things. Like I said, it doesn't take all day. You're just trying to create an opportunity to connect. It does not require you to do it any specific type of way. Every household is different. 2% out of a whole day, you just commit one day out of whether you want to do a month. I do every week, but you don't have to do that. One day out of the month where y'all are intentional about whatever it is you want to be intentional about. And all you're doing is testing it. Like, okay, are we going to try this board game? Because Mark, we went through a whole lot of different trials and errors. Like, yeah, we're not playing Scrabble with the kids anymore. Not at that time. Like, they were too young. It's like, I tried it.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. So you just try different things. The first one we had was pizza. I got this thing called a uni, and that uni allowed us to make our own pizza. So we got the dough and everything and put it in the actual uni, and it took 60 seconds to make the pizza, to actually just put it in the fire. And everyone got to make their own pizza and all of that stuff. So every Wednesday we would make our own pizza. It was fun. We did it together until it wasn't fun. It's like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. It takes too much time to actually prep the dough and everything. But yeah, just test it out. It doesn't take all day. Just do something intentionally and you won't regret it with your family. It's never going to be a waste of time when you are intentionally investing time to create memories that you won't forget and they won't forget. It's not even about you. It's about them. Because the number one mistake that most parents make is they wait too long to start making the right adjustments to their belief systems. See, they believe they have time until they don't. And now the kids are not kids. They're sons and daughters who are adults. And they have kids. And they don't want anything to do with your traditions. Why? Because they don't want to do what they did their whole lives with you. They want to do something different. But if you build a legacy worth protecting, then you can actually become the person worth reflecting, and they will come to you and want to do things that they did when they were kids. Like, hey, mom, what's that thing we did? Because they want to do it too. Why? Because of the memories and the actual value attached to it. Now they have something to aim at because you set the aim.
I love that. Yeah, it's so important. It's so important to spend time presently with your kids. And as you said, there are many parents, and I've spoken to many as well. And maybe it's because of the men I've happened to be speaking to, but a lot of them really feel that heavy weight of society of being the provider, of having to be the provider. And because of that, very often they miss out on these traditions, the on the fun part of it as well, because they have that part of providing, but not balanced with the fun part. Let's put it that way. So they're leaning too much into that imbalance. So it's very, very interesting that you what you say over here. I love that. So what's one thing that your kids have taught you?
Just one?
Just for time's sake.
Okay. One thing my kids have taught me is that you're never too old to learn what you didn't learn as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've learned so much as a father that I did not learn as a kid while teaching them. You learn while you teach. And the things that I have learned that I did not know, like, oh my goodness, I did not know that I did not know this, but I get to learn it now, and they get to learn it sooner than I did. So you're never too old to learn what you didn't learn as a kid, and then immediately start applying it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I also wanted to ask you, I mean, we all have good days and bad days in general. Hopefully the good days vastly outweigh the bad days, but obviously everybody, we all have challenges, and that's just normal. We just have to put a positive spin on it in a way, in terms of taking the lessons from it. But I did want to ask you, what if you're having a challenging day, what is something your kids do that will always make you laugh?
Being kids,
Yeah.
I have a belief that says you're not having a good day, you're not having a bad day. You're just focused on the bad things in the day that happen, or you're focusing on the good things in the day that happen, because the world doesn't revolve around me. And my kids, I keep a reminder the day that my daughter was born, our eldest, when she came out of the womb and I was in the room, I did not hear her make a sound. And I was looking at her. The doctor's taking her out. I'm like, yo, whoa, 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 whoa. And it was at that moment I realized that I would never see my children crying and making noise as a negative thing, because that just lets me know you're alive. So whenever they do things, I keep in mind, and this is just me, but I keep in mind, it's not going to last forever. One day, they're not going to be in this room doing this silly stuff, jumping off of beds and doing all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff. They're not going to be asking me for permission for anything. It's a day that is going to come. So it's not just the things that make me laugh. It's the things that that humble me. Because when I lost my father in 2017, and that was a year after our firstborn was born. So when I got to experience our daughter's birth, it's like, oh my goodness, life changes you. But then when my father passed, it's like, oh wow, life changes you, but death humbles you.
Yeah.
So the things that they do, I look at them as kids because they're just being kids and they have no clue. So even when they do something that doesn't make any sense, and I'm like, are you serious right now? I find the thing to laugh at because I know 20 years from now, I'm going to be having a story with them, be like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you used to do that. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. So I
Yeah.
just laugh in advance, man, because it's worth laughing at.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I did a short video the other day on how kids can help you really bring out that authenticity in yourself because they are so authentic. Like they don't care. Like they jump off the bed, they're on the chandeliers.
Pick stuff up
They
off the
do
floor, put it in their nose, just like,
exactly
what were you thinking? Oh, my goodness, yeah.
whatever they have in their hand at some point just has to be flushed down the toilet, and whatever they have to have in their mind, it just
Oh,
has
my
to happen.
goodness. Yeah, yeah.
And it's hilarious if you see that's hilarious, which it usually is. But that authenticity is just is wonderful, right? Like if only we could pursue our dreams, maybe not that unfiltered, but as that confidently as they do, because they have that confidence, right? It's beautiful to see up close how they just every act of them is confidence, and they walk confidently. They don't walk the shoulders like that. They walk like with the shoulders back, and yeah, it's great to see, right? It's beautiful to witness, and I love combining that with what you said. Is like you have to be mindful of the time, and I love that. So that's brilliant. So I wanted to ask you. You have a masterclass coming up. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Can you
November
talk a bit about
29th.
that? Brilliant.
Yeah, in this masterclass, it's called the Be the If Masterclass. And the
Hmm.
focus is going to help literally helping families to become aware of their options on how they can be intentional about their life, their time, and their legacy, and understanding, listen, you only get one chance to raise your kids. However, you can raise your income without sacrificing the one chance you get to raise your kids. You can
Hmm.
increase, even if you don't have kids, you can increase your income without decreasing the quality of time that you have with those you value and cherish most. So in this masterclass, I'm going to actually go through how you can go about doing that, as well as understanding when I talked about that 2%, being aware of the time that you can actually leverage and take advantage of without sacrificing everything that you think you need to. Instead, you're
Hmm.
going to be embracing what you have and putting that to use. I'm looking forward to it.
And where can people find information about you?
Well, the first thing you can do is you can actually go to betheifcommunity.com. And in there is where you'll find a bunch of people who are so consistent and committed to being intentional about their lifetime and legacy, doing different things, but you can connect with them on the various levels of intentionality. And inside of there is actually where we're actually doing all the details. We're doing all of the actual focus points of the masterclass, but not just that, the things that we are doing together to actually grow and become more intentional. So be the if. If is a condition, by the way, that must be met in order for a specific purpose to be fulfilled. If you choose to be the if, for me, IF stands for intentional father, intentional
Hmm.
family, intentional friendship, all on the foundation of intentional faith, because these are the three relationships that'll make or break your life. But on the foundation of faith, you will behave according to how you believe and what you believe. So you might as well be intentional about all four. With the whole Be the If community.com, you'll be able to enter in and actually get intentional in ways you did not even imagine that you could have, should have, and would have. Kind of like after hearing this conversation and things that might
Hmm.
have provoked you to think.
Yeah, I love that. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jared. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I absolutely loved it. And hopefully we can have more podcasts in the future as well, because you are a treasure trove of knowledge, experience, inspiration, motivation. It's a joy listening to you.
Thank you, my friend. Pleasure's been all mine. You don't get all, it's not often you get to have conversations with intentional fathers at this level.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll make sure the details are in the description below in the podcast, and people shall find you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, you too.